Do your students need food or water? And I'm not just talking students from Title I schools who actually literally need food from their school environments because they're not really going to get it at home. Although I also mean those students, because who can learn when we don't have our basic needs met? But I'm also talking to every kind of student. I am shocked about how often in my academic coaching practice with students, I discover that one of their a symptom they are experiencing in terms of having difficulty thinking or learning is often resolved by a little food and water. And this is relevant for today's series because, as you know, if you've been keeping up, I have been attending a workshop series on alternatives to policing. And this workshop series is investigating what does a world look like where we have all of our community's varied needs met by each other before needing to call the police, so that the police can really focus on some of the things that they do best. Now, some people will argue there's not much that police do best. I'm very sympathetic and think I might be on that bandwagon as well. But for today, rather than focusing on what police don't do well, I want to be focusing on what I'm learning about what communities can do well, because what's been shocking to me as I do this training in my personal life is I'm seeing how everything that these nonprofit organizations are suggesting that community members do to structure a safe and caring community are the very same things that schools can be doing, and also that academic coaches can be doing, even in the microcosm of our coaching sessions. So this question, do your students need food or water, is one that I don't often talk about in my academic coaching training or even in my teacher training. But it's come to me in this moment because in the training that I was attending on alternatives to policing, they said that if you're seeing somebody having a mental health episode and you decide that you are comfortable stepping in to investigate and support them, one of the first things that they train their volunteers in this organization to do is to offer food and water. And so that's in their first responder kits, is food and water. So you can, last week we talked about the importance of relatedness and kindness and caring. And so when you approach someone from that place and then just offer them right away, like, can I give you food or water? Would that be helpful? So often the person says yes. And so often their mental health episode shifts simply because they got that basic health and energy need met. And I can't tell you how often in my academic coaching world, students will complain of not learning well, and I will talk, like in a particular class, let's say, and I'll talk to them about that, and we'll discover that it's second or third period, it's like 10 a.m. and they're really hungry, and the only food that they have access to is a donut or something. And in the case that I'm remembering right now, the student was eating a donut, but that was not helping him focus better. In fact, it was really getting in the way of his focus. And so we had to work hard over the course of several sessions to help him recognize that his own nutrition is very important, not just to his body, but also to his brain, his learning, and his ability to pay attention in class. And he had to figure out, when his parents go grocery shopping, how he could think through what snacks will actually help him learn. He had to experiment with which are better than others. We had to build in routines for making sure that these snacks get put in the bag. I mean, it may sound like a simple thing to have food or water, but it is so not a simple thing. And that brings us to, as I started at the beginning of this video, the issue of how many students also just simply, like the one that I just mentioned, he was able to. His family has the resources. He just needed to build in the routines for remembering to feed himself well. Many students don't have the resources. And so what can we as community members do to make sure that they have the resources they need, the basic resources to feed and water themselves, so that they can be their best selves in their school environments? So important, and something we don't often think about. These are the kinds of topics that I have so much fun tackling with the educators in my monthly Anti-Boring Educators Club. And we tackle all kinds of questions and answers about how to best support students in their learning. And if you are an educator who thinks it might be nice to play around in a rockin' professional development community where we can dig into some of the surprising things that will help our students succeed, I recommend you check us out. Links are below to all of my resources. I also have some free resources that if you haven't checked out yet, one is called the Study Cycle. I strongly recommend that you do, and I look forward to getting to know you better in those places.